Hello everyone and welcome to the Committee Reads. I'm your host KWCs and with me are Alex, Nagoda, Joe, and may or may not be Gaira. That may not have been a sentence, I don't really care. Today we are going to be covering match 104, Baragon vs. Gaira by Eugene Tan. There was only silence. Once a great tourist resort and place of geographical interest, Yellowstone National Park lay deserted. Not a soul walked within its valleys and forests. Even the animals were gone, and the birds feared to emerge from where they hid. A gigantic monster had arrived and called this place home, and unlike most others, it simply stayed there, at the foot of the legendary Mount Yellowstone. Baragon awoke to a new morning, roaring to announce his arrival. The crimson creature shook his head a little, waving his dog-like ears. The kaiju then began his futile search for food. While Baragon persistently stayed in his sanctuary, he starved constantly. All the large animals had long been consumed by his enormous appetite or killed in his forest fires, and the geologists never seemed to come anymore. As Baragon wandered on aimlessly, he suddenly felt powerful vibrations. Something was here. At this moment, the dog-eared kaiju didn't know exactly what, but he knew it was big. Very big. The monstrous humanoid Gaira lumbered through the forests of Yellowstone Park, crushing trees in his nomadic expedition for sustenance. The titanic mutant growled as he surveyed the landscape before him. It was all lush and green, but it was useless to him when it came to satisfying his hunger. Gaira turned to leave, snarling discontentment. As he stormed off, he was suddenly slammed on his feet. Baragon crashed into the huge newcomer, sending the big green humanoid flying into a lake not too far away. The prehistoric kaiju was highly territorial. He wouldn't allow another kaiju to claim the park. Although this newcomer looked far more powerful than he was, and looked like the stuff of nightmares, Baragon would not back down. Gaira shook himself off as he rose to his feet. In a show of power, the mighty humanoid punched the ancient earth of Yellowstone Park, forming a crater where he had impacted. He, unlike what the weakling reptile had imagined, had no plans of taking over this territory, but he was furious. This pest would pay for his sneak attack. Cracking his powerful fists as he looked down at the kaiju before him, the humanoid came to a horrific new decision. Baragon would be his meal. Yum yum. Baragon snarled stubbornly, refusing to back down, even as the intimidating brute lumbered towards him. The spawn of Frankenstein took his time. After all, this creature probably was not going to retreat. Baragon would use this time well. As Gaira walked closer, Baragon suddenly charged, once again taking the humanoid by surprise. Gaira roared in anger as the subterranean monster clamped his jaws onto his arm, sinking his fangs into it. Gaira struggled to get the persistent little reptile off, but Baragon clung on. Gaira stumbled back, gritting his teeth in pain, giving Baragon the opening to slam his front legs into Gaira's muscular chest, actually pushing the huge humanoid up to the ground. He could win this. He could take down this new... Baragon's ideas of victory, along with the air in his lungs, were knocked out of him when Gaira's fist connected with his lower jaw, causing the dog-like beast to spin around the air, crashing near his home at Mount Yellowstone. Baragon struggled to his feet and shook his head in a daze, ignoring the nasty throb in his lower jaw. His jawbone must have been cracked by the impact of the earth. But Gaira was not a merciful opponent. The subterranean monster would get no opportunity to fully return to his senses. From behind the reptile, he raised a boulder and smashed it hard upon Baragon's skull. Baragon yelped in pain as he stumbled forward and fell onto his side, seeing stars from the force of the blow. Tweety birds, I guess? I don't know. Gaira smirked as he watched Baragon groan in pain. This was going to be easier than he had initially thought. Perhaps he would bash this little pest up first before killing him. With that, Gaira tossed the boulder in his hands towards Baragon, snickering as he did so. Baragon's eyes widened surprised as the boulder flew towards the downed reptile. Swiftly, the ancient dragon lashed his tail out, deflecting the boulder at Gaira, who quickly bashed it away with his arm, shattering the projectile. Gaira sneered. It looked like Baragon still had fight in him. He would get rid of that spirit. Baragon was wise to quickly leap to his feet as Gaira went on to the attack. Baragon swiftly gave himself some distance from the raging menace before charging on his hind legs. The two titans clashed next to the great dormant supervolcano, the earth shuddering as they met. Pass.
It's my turn, right?
Yes.
Okay. It was time. Tremors came from somewhere. Each and every soldier understood. They were here. The tremors were their footsteps. It wasn't long before the first titan became visible. What is that? Can I keep that? I can't keep this. I'll go back to it now. Baragon squealed in pain.
Hang on a sec, man. You're crapping out a little there. Could you repeat that?
Yeah, I might be far away for a bit. Okay, so I'm not Baragon squealing.
Hang on a sec, man. Trying to.
Hello?
Nagoda became the glitch.
Yeah. Dig blast Discord. Baragon squealed in pain. That's where we are.
Okay, well, so you didn't get anything I heard? You didn't get anything I heard earlier?
Oh, man. I mean, yeah, you're glitching out, man. You are glitching out super hard.
KWCs, you infected the poor boy.
No! It was never my intention. Alex, I'm sorry.
God, I hate this match.
Alright.
Is it because it has Baragon in it?
Yeah.
Hello?
Alright.
Hello?
Yeah, you're there, man. You're there. Just read from Baragon squealed in pain. We'll go from there.
Wait, so you guys didn't hear it?
No, I didn't catch anything. So.
I heard Baragon squealed in pain.
That sucks, because I read a whole paragraph from the Attack on Titan book.
Dig blasted.
No! Gosh darn it.
Baragon squealed in pain. Gaira's sheer strength overwhelmed him. A bastard spawn of Frankenstein clobbered Baragon as he drilled the reptile to the ground. Soon, the green gargantua's fists were stained with blood as he kept smashing Baragon's face. But Baragon refused to lose without a fight. As Gaira swung his fist down again, the subterranean monster suddenly spun around, lashing his powerful tail at his foe's feet, knocking Gaira over. Before Gaira could get up, Baragon leapt into the air and body slammed him. The humanoid snarled, making sure Baragon would lose this advantage. As the little beast moved in again, Gaira's legs collided with his chest, throwing Baragon a good distance away. Gaira smirked as Baragon crashed into a large rock, making the smaller creature cry out in pain. As Gaira lumbered closer, something began to build up from Baragon's maw. Gaira swore he saw the light glow of flame as Baragon turned his attention back to his foe. Before Gaira could guess what was going on, a powerful stream of fire blasted from Baragon's mouth and struck Gaira in the chest. The giant roared in pain, and Baragon kept firing his projectile weapon at his enemy. Should be beam weapon, not projectile weapon.
Yeah.
Gaira backed off. Backed off slowly as the flames licked at his chest and refused to die. Gaira groaned, forced to his knees by the agony. But the human ingenuity within Gaira's skull would not let him lose so easily. As Baragon confidently surged his fire forth, Gaira suddenly uprooted a redwood and put it in the way of the heat ray, letting the tree catch fire. Baragon blinked in surprise as Gaira used it as a shield to the projectile weapon and swiped it like a mace. Within seconds, he had covered the distance between the two adversaries. striking Baragon repeatedly with his new flaming weapon, causing the reptile to momentarily stop the release of his signature weapon. The humanoid then continued striking Baragon using the redwood as one would a club. Baragon's cries of pain only encouraged Gaira to further attack the beast that had so humiliated him. Baragon quickly fired his heat ray again, but this time his enemy dodged it, instead placing his arms under the crimson reptile and lifting him into the air before smashing him right back with an explosion of dirt and plant matter. Baragon waved his stubby legs in the air as he launched forth another heat ray in self-defense. Now, this one
Nagoda's
did
not going to read this anymore. He's playing Ark Survival.
Oh, is it? Does it actually show that?
Yep. Been exposed, fucker.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah, my
Nagoda.
brother's playing on my computer. Okay, so blah 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 blah.
Stubby legs.
No, where?
Stubby legs.
Stubby legs in the air, and as he launched forth another heat ray in self-defense. Now this one did hit Gaira, but the humanoid quickly jumped to the side once. Gaira grinned as Baragon began to panic, backing off slowly. To magnify his foe's fear, the Titan struck the ancient supervolcano this park was named after. And look, he is a Titan. And picked up a large slab of volcanic rock before tossing it right at his foe.
We've had Titans before Titans were cool.
Teeth chattered as the chunk loomed close. But he needed to recuperate. After this, he could plan how to defeat this monster. As Baragon finished his thoughts, the massive slab of rock hit Baragon's location with deadly accuracy. To Gaira's surprise, as it was cleared, his enemy was nowhere to be seen. Shoving the slab aside, Gaira saw only a large hole in the ground. Curses! Gaira began cursing. Gaira began walking around Baragon's old home. He was still angry, and he still wanted his meal. Gaira lumbered across the landscape in fury, causing the ground to shake as he stormed across the area, shaking his fists angrily.
Gaira with terrible language.
Kill me.
It's not your time yet.
Or
As
Baragon.
Gaira looked around, hoping his enemy would just emerge already and continue the battle, the ground beneath him began to tremble. It wasn't from Gaira's footsteps, and neither was it from Baragon. Old faithfully shot its contents into the air, propelling the steaming liquid 20 meters into the air, striking Gaira between the legs. Gaira roared in
I was not
pain
expecting that.
Oh my.
as the incredibly hot water struck. His cries of agony could be heard from miles away.
Poor crotch.
Continuing, even as the great geyser went back to rest. Tears formed in his normally cold eyes, and the great Gaira crashed to his knees.
I was not expecting this. This confirms
He was
the
in agony.
Gaira has testicles. This just confirms it.
Well, he used to.
Fair enough.
He used to. He was in agony. Not even Baragon's heat ray had brought him such pain. Breathing heavily and screaming in pain between intervals. Gaira's cries had attracted the attention of another. About 100 yards away, a familiar head poked out of the earth. It grinned goofily, then began laughing as it watched the giant gargantua groaning on the ground. Then its upper body emerged as well. Baragon had returned just to laugh at his foe's plight, and he did. Baragon shivered in hilarity, inciting Gaira's rage.
What a dick.
Wow, yeah, what an asshole.
Gaira got to his feet, grimacing in rage, his eyes like fire. I thought they didn't have fire anymore. He hobbled slowly toward Baragon, inciting further laughter from its adversary. As Baragon chuckled, the gargantua's fury exploded. Baragon's eyes widened in horror as Gaira suddenly sprinted towards him. charging like a mad bull. Baragon did not have time to retreat back under as the green gargantua grabbed his neck and tossed him against the side of Mount Yellowstone. Is it really called Mount Yellowstone?
I think so. We'll check in post.
Baragon lay there stunned, his body racked with pain. But Gaira was now truly out to kill, as if he wasn't before, and his foe would get no mercy. Before Baragon could get up, Gaira kicked him hard, snapping one of Baragon's ribs upon impact. The Baragon groaned in agony, spitting out blood, much to Gaira's satisfaction. As Gaira kicked again, the subterranean kaiju managed to withstand his pain and roll out of the way, where Gaira smashed a large chunk out of the mountain. Baragon desperately thought of a plan to get out of his mess alive, quickly leaping back as his adversary stormed forth, kicking trees aside as he pursued the red dragon. As the green gargantua loomed ever closer, Baragon mustered up his courage and charged, leaping right into the air. However, for his efforts, Gaira simply bashed him away in midair with a powerful swipe of his arm, temporarily knocking the subterranean monster out cold. That was 13, right?
You could do one more if you want to do 14. So.
I'll take the 14, I guess. As Baragon lay still on the ground, Gaira moved in slowly. It would give him no pleasure to kill the imbecile while it was still unconscious. So Gaira took his time. And unfortunately for Baragon, he woke up too soon. Pass.
Alright,
Baragon's eyes flashed open. He did not know how long he had been unconscious, but he was glad to be alive. The dog-like kaiju hoped Gaira left while he had been in his dreamland. The side of his head still hurt from the brute strike, as the kaiju got to his stubby legs. He was suddenly grabbed by the neck by a pair of powerful arms, which quickly started work at strangling the screaming reptile to death. Baragon had, in reality, only been out for a minute or so, and Gaira was glad for it. As he sadistically continued preventing air from entering Baragon's lungs, Baragon had to act fast if he was to survive this offense. Flames began to build up at the back of his throat. Gaira grinned as he came face to face with his adversary. His hideous mug would be the last thing the reptile would ever see. Gaira stared coldly as Baragon struggled in vain. He hoped to see fear in the pesky little dragon's face. But now, he only saw a tenacious grimace on the dog-like kaiju's face. Gaira did not take such stubbornness lightly and moved Baragon's face even closer to his own, and squeezed even harder. Unfortunately, that also put him in perfect position for Baragon's heat ray, which struck him at point blank. Gaira roared in rage as he fell backwards momentarily, releasing Baragon as he patted out the flames on his face. Baragon landed on his feet, catching his breath. This turn of events had given Baragon a mental boost. He no longer felt like running away. A new resolve burned within him. Gaira rose on both legs, still in pain. The skin on his face had been burnt beyond recognition. One of his eyes had been destroyed, and steam still rose from his face. However, he was laughing madly. It looked like a true fight could begin right now. Baragon showed no signs of fear as Gaira closed in. He did not take a step back. As Gaira lumbered forward, the subterranean monster charged and leapt into the air. Gaira prepared to swipe Baragon aside again, but this time, a heat ray blasted him in the chest, stunning Gaira for a second. Baragon used that second while slashing Gaira across the chest, with his razor-sharp claws and body slamming Gaira to the ground. As Gaira prepared to knock the pesky beast off, Baragon landed on his chest and lunged down, ripping onto the monster's throat. Gaira roared in rage, punching his adversary
Hey, Joe, stop
Repeat.
reading. Nagoda's not paying attention. He's playing Ark again.
Nagoda!
Nagoda,
You're gonna
pay
get detention if you don't stop playing them video games during class.
Don't you know video games make you violent? Start reading the violent material.
Yeah, exactly.
Nagoda, don't play a video game. Get a gun. Okay, I guess he took my advice too literal.
Oh my goodness. Continue reading, Joe.
Gaira roared in rage, punching his adversary repeatedly on the sides. Baragon refused to relinquish his grip despite the force of the blows, until Gaira forcefully placed his foot onto the red dragon's chest and forcefully kicked him, losing some of his neck in the process. Baragon crashed onto his behind, the air knocked out of his lungs. As Baragon prepared to continue fighting, his enemy leapt back to action and grabbed onto his foe's red tail, and with incredible strength swung him like a mace of sorts, bashing him into Mount Yellowstone again and again. Baragon roared in pain. He was smashed with such impact that a few of his teeth fell off, and his lower jaw suffered a severe fracture. But Gaira really hoped he could just smash his foe's skull in. The subterranean monster would not let him do so easily. As Gaira swung Baragon again, the lizard-like kaiju, instead of letting himself smash against the mountain once again, sank his claws into the geographical structure, gaining leverage. Much to the gargantua's surprise, Baragon suddenly kicked with his back legs, knocking Gaira back. It didn't do much to hurt the gargantuan, but it made him let go of the red reptile, who swiftly turned around and struck like a vicious cobra nipping onto Gaira's hand. How many was that?
I think you have about like 1, 2, 3, 4. I feel like 4 more.
Okay. Gaira roared in pain as Baragon's teeth sank in, and the red dragon began shaking his head from side to side. Gaira quickly wrenched the reptile off, but not without a loss. Gaira grimaced in horror as where once were 3 fingers were, well, nothing. Gaira's limited regeneration would allow him to regain these appendages eventually, but it nonetheless filled him with rage and pain. Baragon swiftly swallowed the 3 fingers, them being his first meal in days. Gaira took the gesture as an insult. He was certainly stronger than Baragon, but the loss of his fingers had cost him massively. He was now without the use of one hand, but that did not matter. He swore that even if one of his hands was now useless, he would finish this pest. He would finish him even if he had no hands at all. As Baragon and Gaira continued grappling, the former noticed something was wrong. He couldn't breathe. In fact, it seemed as though his throat was being clawed apart. Baragon gasped and gagged and even spat blood. Something was in his throat, trying to claw out. Much to his horror, he realized there were 3 objects doing the job. In fact, Gaira's body parts had a mysterious ability to take a life of their own. And they had, right where Baragon's claws could not reach them. Baragon suddenly stopped attacking, gagging and gasping. Gaira noted that soon enough. He did not know why Baragon had suddenly ended his assault, but he was quick to take advantage of it. Swiftly, the green gargantuan kicked the red reptile over and stomped onto Baragon's chest viciously, as the primitive reptile struggled against the forces both outside and inside him. Baragon blasted his heat ray in an attempt to get rid of the fingers inside his gullet, gagging as he did so. Simultaneously, he attempted to ward off Gaira's attacks, but to little avail. Gaira laughed as he tossed Baragon against Mount Yellowstone, the reptile weakly kicking back. Finally, with one last blast of flame, the fingers were shot out of Baragon's mouth. By then, Gaira had already too much of an upper hand. Before the subterranean monster could even return to combat, Gaira had already planned his next attack. He leapt into the air and, with this momentum, smashed Baragon's head into the ground with his one good hand. Baragon groaned weakly. His lower jaw had been dislocated by the impact. He had to pull off a master stroke to defeat Gaira at this point.
Yeah, you can pass. You're good. Alex, finish.
Pass.
Alright. For Gaira, it was time to end this little charade. It was fun while it lasted, but he really wanted to satisfy his appetite soon. Got fucking crazy. Gaira ready hit his battle, lusting piss for one last blow. Then there was an explosion of earth. Gaira covered his eyes as sand and dust was thrown everywhere. When the dust cleared, the Crimson Dragon was gone. Gaira cursed in whatever way giant monsters do. That little creature had run away again. However, this time he was wrong. Baragon had not run away. He was just getting a new vantage point. In this case, the peak of Mount Yellowstone. Gaira looked up. Baragon stood over 3,000 meters above him. That was a great height. Even by Kaiju standards, Gaira rolled his eyes. It seemed he had to make the ascent up Mount Yellowstone to kill his enemy. With little choice, the Green Gargantua began to climb after his target. But Baragon had other plans. Suddenly, the subterranean monster charged down the steep slopes of the legendary volcano, and after a brief charge, let himself plunge. Gaira swiftly began backing down from the mountain, but it was too late for Baragon. It was exhilarating. He had never felt like this before. It felt as though the whole world was a blur. Everything was floating around him, and Gaira was getting bigger and bigger, and crash. Baragon awoke in a massive crater. The impact had been larger than even Baragon had conceived, and he hadn't predicted that he himself would have been knocked out either. Gaira, having been sent flying by the collision lane about 100 yards away. Sprawled and broken. Fortunately, Gargantua was too stern, and the green brute got up slowly, and Baragon quickly followed suit. The two enemies glared at each other. Both were too weak to make another blow. They just locked their eyes, waiting for one to attack. They kept resolutely still for a whole minute, then Gaira fell. Once great titan smashed the earth with an explosion of dust and dirt. Baragon soon saw why. Embedded deep into Gaira's skull was Baragon's own translucent horn, which dislodged from the impact. Baragon crept slowly towards Gaira and kicked him lightly to make sure he was down. True enough, the Green Gargantua lay motionless. Appeared to be dead, or at least unconscious. Baragon reared up on his hind legs, roaring in triumph. Despite his many wounds, he had saved his territory. The subterranean monster wanted the world to know about his victory against all odds. So he roared even louder, battered, bruised, and bleeding. Baragon had prevailed, but then he got a heart attack and fucking died.
Winner Baragon. Alright. Yeah. It's weird to say. It feels a little long, but I have a hard time really thinking of anything I could really remove. I think it employs, like, the monsters I think are used well, and I think it employs some, like, decently creative tactics with them. I think particularly the Gaira finger thing. That was actually really cool.
The Gaira finger thing.
Yeah. So it's like, I was not expecting that. I was expecting the fingers just to go down the gullet and call it good, not actually fight back. So it's like, you know what? Good use of Gaira's abilities here. I think Gaira was well utilized. Baragon, this was a surprisingly solid match. If it hadn't been for jumping down to the ending, I wouldn't have suspected who would have won. At least up until that final moment. But I will also say, was not expecting a groin hit. I was not expecting a freaking groin thing with Gaira. Oh, kitty.
I mean, I was a struggling actor. I just didn't know he was gay for pay.
So, yeah, honestly, I think this one's like this one. I think this is so far. Oh, kitty. I'm distracted by a cat.
So far, it's cat-tastic.
Hey! And Gray Shot makes a big entrance after we read the match.
You're welcome, everyone.
What a scumbag.
That's how he does it. He's late for everything.
That's what his girlfriend says.
Oh.
Catch my drift.
Anyway.
I actually was in every way, including when I visited her. I literally was a half a day off. It's a curse. It's just a curse.
Ever since you became part of the KWCC, it's been a curse.
Yes.
But yeah, Baragon versus Gaira I think is really solid. I feel like there might have been 1-2 moments where there was like they had the definitive resolve, even though I felt like they already had the resolve. So, still friggin' but yeah, honestly, I really I surprisingly enjoyed this match a lot more than I expected. So, good use of the monsters, decent use of the terrain. There is no such thing as Mount Yellowstone. It's fictional just for this story. Anyway. So we'll just go down the list. Alex, for once, you will be first to say... Oh,
Wait.
okay,
I miss
can you hear me?
KWX.
No.
Yes.
Okay.
I miss KWX. I
Oh.
can still hear.
We can hear.
still hear him to
Okay.
this day.
Okay. Alex, ZBG,
he's
you
still
go to the
here.
corner right now. Stop messing with KWX. He's done nothing wrong.
Yeah, even you guys went silent for a moment, too, so...
Even the cat's back.
Yeah, even
Gosh
the cat's
darn
back. But yeah, I already said what I needed to say, so all I have to do is just cut that part out. So I'm just going to pretend like y'all heard my opinion and say, Alex, what'd you think of it?
It's okay. It's just way too long. I liked it when Baragon got a heart attack and died. And that's my thoughts.
Alright. Nagoda, what'd you think of it?
It was pretty fun. I think the one thing I remember about this match was the finger thing. Like he ate the finger, then it started fighting back. And I think that's it for me. Next person.
I kind of liked it. I like how goofy the fights were. The fight was. It was. At times it was like. It reminded me of Godzilla and Rodan's fight in Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster.
Oh, yeah.
Like, especially when Gaira gets a what's it called? A geyser to his dick. That reminded me of when the same thing happened to Godzilla, but with a telephone pole.
Oh, yeah.
And the finger thing was pretty interesting. I think now I can safely say there's a match where Baragon gets fingered.
Gosh darn it.
Hey, that's for the that's for the KWC reads that we're posting on Pornhub. Hold off until that. It hasn't been announced yet. How dare you?
You mean-
Just make sure
You mean Baragon Covenant? You mean KWC Covenant?
Alright.
But it was a pretty decent one.
So, and Gray Shot, even though you came here for the butt end of it, have you read 104? What do you remember from 104?
All that I can say is I came back. I'm just going off memory here. I do remember it being a longer match. But I remember there was a lot of detail in the fights. Like you mentioned the finger thing, I actually remember that. There were like a few other little the finger thing, the fact that Baragon was the victor in the end was also a nice surprise because, I mean, going off the movie, you don't think that, but it was a nice surprise, and I think it's, I don't want to say it was the start of, like, this, I think that this, like, started, like, the Gargantua versus Baragon Because there was also like a Sanda versus Baragon, and
Well,
then
didn't
like,
Sanda versus Baragon come first?
Yeah, Sandy
It was
versus-
match 99.
Yeah, match 99.
oh, okay. I am losing my. Wow, I'm losing track.
I think that's more of Gaira versus another monster than Baragon.
Ah, okay. But no, yeah, from what I remember, good match. Maybe just a little too long, just a smidge.
Yeah. Yeah, could have been trimmed down in some areas. Otherwise, solid. I also kind of like the banner for this one. It's a little on the simple side, but I kind of enjoyed like the contrast stylism.
Yeah, that's actually the best. That's the best thing about this match. Sorry to interrupt, but it gives me that 1960s monster movie vibe.
Yeah. It looks like the cover, the VHS cover of a monster movie.
Yeah, you know what? You're totally right.
It creates a nice atmosphere, and I think that's why I think this match is okay, because I could envision this fight just from the banner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're totally right. And banner by Stephanie Hughes too. I think she's made like, yeah, nice number of banners. So, anyway, I think that about covers match 104 for the most part. So, with that said, we will see you guys next time for match 105. Till then, folks.